All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Oh, wait, Andrew, no. Good afternoon. You don't need to join us. Join us right now. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining Dr. Mack for the July Educational Offering. We have two speakers for you. The first is from the Brain Injury Alliance, and the second is from the Laridan School. But first, Diana will begin the meeting by addressing some housekeeping matters.
Thanks, Colleen. Please go ahead and type your name and organization in the chat so we can keep track of who's here. If you'd like to mute or unmute, you can click the microphone icon in the bottom left corner of your Zoom window. To access the chat, you can click the speech bubble icon in the bottom middle of your Zoom window. We ask everyone to keep themselves muted during the meeting when they're not speaking. But should you need to raise your hand, you can do that by clicking on the smiley face icon in the bottom right corner. As always, you can use the chat as needed for questions or comments, and you can also use the raise your hand function to be called on. Now that we've covered that, we're going to do some staff introductions. Maria?
Hi everyone, my name is Maria Griffin. I am Dr. Mack's Administrative and Marketing Assistant, and currently I've been busy with administrative duties, with social media, marketing for our events, and just marketing in general for our organization. Diana?
Hi everyone, my name is Diana Castro and I am the Bilingual Outreach Coordinator for Dr. Mack. I wanted to talk to you guys about the Dr. Mack membership. Just to remind you guys that we are a membership organization as a nonprofit. We do have three membership levels. We have the individual, which is for $25. We have the organizational, which is for $100, and we have the business membership for $500. If you have any questions about that, you are welcome to reach out to me. My email is on the screen. Thank you so much for being here. Malia?
Hi, everyone. I'm Malia Munson. I am the Operations and Development Assistant, and I wanted to remind everyone today about our Transit to Wellness Expo that is coming up. This is a caregiver resource fair that we're having. It's going to be August 30th, 3 to 6 p.m. at the City Park Pavilion. Mark it on your calendars, and we'll also drop it in the chat. And Holly.
Latoya. Yep. Hi, my name is Latoya Pranti. For those who don't know me, I see a lot of new faces, so I'm excited. I'm the Operations and Development Manager here with Dr. Mack. Some of the things that I would like to talk about here is volunteer recruiting. We are always loving the assistance from those who want to volunteer their time. Here we have a couple options. We could do in-person or virtual volunteers, so we could always use the help in different areas, whether it's events, some outreach, assistance with the information and assistance line. So there's so many different ways we can contribute to the community in a large level or a very impactful one-on-one level. So those are options. If you're interested in any kind of volunteer, or you know anybody who is looking for some volunteer work, please reach out to me. I'll go ahead and drop my email in the chat. And thank you so much. Stephanie?
Hi everyone, my name is Stephanie O'Neill. I'm the Program Manager of Special Projects here at Dr. Mack. Always kind of plugging our travel training program, and we have some exciting trainings coming up. We did a bunch over the last couple of months as well. So if you've already taken our trainings, you should take them again. But if you haven't, now's a great time to do that. We offer virtual and in-person trainings in English and Spanish, and can offer them in other languages as well. Holly?
Hi, I'm Holly Webb. I'm the program and training assistant here at Dr. Mack.
Awesome. All right. So today's meeting, as you all know, kind of focuses on TBIs and IDDs. So to just kind of quickly give you a textbook definition of both before we move into our presentations, TBI, and I'm sure that Joey will talk a little bit more about this, but according to the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke, they describe it as a traumatic brain injury, or a TBI for short, can be caused by a forceful bump, blow, or jolt to the head or body, or from an object that pierces the skull and enters the brain. Not all blows and jolts result in a TBI. And there are many ways that TBIs affect the brain. And like I said, we'll learn a bit more about that from Joey. And then IDDs, or intellectual and developmental disabilities, are differences that are usually present at birth and that uniquely affect the trajectory of the individual's physical, intellectual, and/or emotional development. An intellectual disability starts at any time before the age of 18, and then developmental disabilities can be lifelong. And our speaker, Corin, will talk a little bit more about that during her topic later. So we're going to go ahead and get on with our first speaker. So Joey DP Palo, I'm sorry, will from the Brain Injury Alliance, we'll talk a little bit more about the about TBIs. So we'll pass it off to Joey.
Yeah, so hello everyone. My name is Joey. My last name is Kyle Di Pietro Paolo, as Stephanie actually was able to get right there, which was really huge. People usually don't get it right. But everyone usually just calls me Joey because it saves us a lot of time and energy. I am the community liaison at the Brain Injury Alliance of Colorado. And so what that means is I do a lot of connecting work with folks, trying to make sure that they have the information they need about the services we provide. I also provide brain injury trainings, which are a little bit longer than the abridged version I'm going to be able to give you here in the next couple minutes. But if you give me 1 second, Zoom did the thing where it put the bar over the button that says start presenting. So I just got to fiddle for a second here. There we go. Awesome. Cool. So, anywho, I connect with community organizations, I do community outreaches, as well as I am in charge of brain injury trainings and informational trainings about some of the different programs that we have here. If any of y'all are interested in the unabridged version of the training that we have, you are absolutely welcome to reach out to me. We do it for groups of any size, virtually, in person, hybrid, bunch of different ways. So you all will get my contact information at the end here. One thing to note is that all of the stuff over at the Brain Injury Alliance is primarily funded by MindSource. This is a government grant that is accumulated through traffic violations, speeding tickets, drunk driving tickets, a bunch of other things like that. That money is then added into a pool, and then MindSource reaches out to different organizations that does work with brain injury survivors and has the money for them to use to be able to fund their things. So the majority of our programs are free, and that is a result directly of the MindSource funding. That includes not only my trainings, but a lot of the different programs that I'll talk about here in a little bit. As Stephanie talked about a little bit before, there are different mechanisms of injuries, different ways that injuries occur for a brain injury. And we really split this up into traumatic and non-traumatic brain injuries. Traumatic brain injuries are going to be those situations where the brain bumps into one of the bony ridges that we have in here in our skull as the result of a fall, anything basically related to a fall, right? You could get them from falling down the stairs, getting hit playing football, a bunch of different ways. And what happens is an object in motion tends to stay in motion, right? So when we hit our heads on something, the brain is actually floating in blood and other fluids inside of our skull. The brain continues moving forward as a result of that force and bumps against the bony ridge, and then every force has an equal and opposite force as well, which means that the brain usually goes backwards and bumps on the opposite side as well. And this is what we call a concussion. Anytime that the brain makes contact with one of those bony ridges on the skull, that is a concussion. Now, when we're talking about non-traumatic brain injuries, this is going to be anything that causes a brain injury that is not a result of an external force, one of those falls, a hit to the skull, anything like that. And the two ones that we talk about the most tend to be either strokes, which is a blockage of blood vessels in the brain, or anoxia, which is loss of oxygen to the brain due to something preventing breathing. This could be choking, strangling, being strangled. This could be a result of a drug overdose, a bunch of different things. So these are the two main categories. Big thing that we like to emphasize is even though that these mechanisms of injuries can be very different, they have very similar impacts on folks and they can need similar interventions. What we like to say is that when you have seen one brain injury, that means that you have seen one brain injury, and folks can need different interventions for the same injury, or folks with different injuries can need similar interventions. It really is something that needs to be personalized depending on the individual and what symptoms they're currently experiencing. When we're classifying the severity of a traumatic brain injury, there's a lot of different ways that you can do this, but the most useful one that we tend to tell folks to use is based on the loss of consciousness. So if somebody is unconscious for 0 to 30 minutes, that would is what we would classify as a mild traumatic brain injury. Moderate is going to be 30 minutes to 24 hours, and then anything longer than 24 hours, that's going to be anything that resulted in a coma, is considered to be a severe brain injury. So one of the things that's really comes up a lot with this is sometimes mild brain injuries can affect a person just as much as a severe brain injury can, just because we are using these classifications to determine the amount of damage that has happened to the person's brain. It does not mean that a person who has a mild brain injury is going to need less care and support than a person who has had a severe brain injury. And once again, we really want to emphasize that we are individualizing these treatments for individuals and making sure that they're getting different supports based specifically on what their challenges are. One of the big things that comes up a lot is over 75% of traumatic brain injuries are mild. And even though that these are considered to be mild brain injuries, the symptoms that are a result of these brain injuries can affect folks for the entirety of their life. And they can affect folks physically, cognitively, and psychologically. However, recognizing these signs and symptoms can be very difficult because over 90% of concussions are not associated with a loss of consciousness. This means that most people who have had a brain injury, have had that concussion, don't lose consciousness. Their symptoms can come on very later on. So this could be days later, months later. And a lot of mild brain injuries go unreported as a result of those two things, right? You bump your head, you don't lose consciousness, you think that you're going to be okay, you're not experiencing a lot of different symptoms, but the damage could still have happened. And sometimes the symptoms will develop days or even months later, which means that people will start experiencing symptoms that might be unexplained because they don't know that it's linked back to that concussion that they experienced prior. In addition, a lot of mild traumatic brain injuries are invisible on CT scans and MRIs, the two primary ways that we would look for a traumatic brain injury. And this means that a lot of folks aren't able to see their brain injury after visiting that hospital session as well, because those are the methods that we would do to sort of look for those brain injuries. And the last thing that can really, really complicate things is brain injuries can mirror other disabilities. Damage to the frontal lobe looks very similar to somebody who's experiencing symptoms of ADHD. And a lot of other situations can come up like this. And so sometimes folks will go into the doctor's office, be treated for something else, but instead, what they really need to get support for is the traumatic brain injury that they experienced in the past. When we're looking at the statistics for traumatic brain injuries, kiddos 0 to 4, kiddos 15 to 19, and adults 65 and older are most at risk to have traumatic brain injuries. That is due to ambulatory problems that all of those age ranges face, as well as a lot of different risk-taking behaviors at those different years, right? Young children and adolescents trying to figure out where they belong in the world, trying to figure out where they need to be, what they need to do in order to fit in, and that can cause folks to sometimes engage in behaviors that might be riskier, you know? Kiddos are trying to figure out how to move their bodies. Adults are starting to lose some of the access to mobility that they had before. And as a result, the chance of occurring a traumatic brain injury increases. Males are twice as likely to sustain traumatic brain injuries. And these traumatic brain injuries that all of these groups experience account for approximately 2.5 million emergency department visits every year. They result in half of all trauma deaths and 1/3 of all injury-related deaths. The most common that we see also is falls. Most people, when they occur a traumatic brain injury, it is a result of falling over, be that on the stairs, be that, going somewhere, be that engaging in extreme sports, etc. So a lot of things that we like to keep in mind. Some of the general accommodations that we recommend for folks who have experienced traumatic brain injuries. We split these up into three different categories: cognitive, physical, and emotional. There's a lot more accommodations that you can do for an individual. We unfortunately just don't really have the time to go into everything right now. So these are some of the ones that we primarily recommend, or these are the ones that tend to come up the most, right? So for folks who are having cognitive struggles related to a traumatic brain injury, um, engaging in some sort of organizational system for their tasks, be that calendars, notebooks, checklists, things like that, something that allows them to come back and remember what tasks that they need to focus on. In addition to making sure that we focus on only one thing at a time is huge for folks who are having cognitive struggles. So we want to make sure that we're minimizing distractions, avoiding working on multiple things at a time, and that we're categorizing things based on how they need to get done. So that way, the most important things are getting done first. For folks who are experiencing physical symptoms like sensitivity to noise, light, environmental stimulus, things like that, we recommend lots of breaks. Make sure that we're getting our 5-minute breaks or 10-minute breaks, whatever is able to bring that person back down to where they need to be in order to be able to work on the task is huge. In addition, things that help sort of stifle some of the stimulation that they receive in their environment can be huge. And the last one is the one that tends to be the most difficult for folks to deal with: emotional and mood problems that can come with traumatic brain injuries. A lot of this, once again, is practicing self-care, right? Knowing when it's a good time to be able to work on stuff mentally, emotionally, making sure that we're providing education, reassurance, making sure that people that we are working with have what they need in order to be able to take care of themselves. This is really what we emphasize as an important step for people dealing with those emotional struggles. We want to remember that everyone who we are working with a traumatic brain injury is trying their best to try and be able to work on the things that are going on around them. But sometimes the traumatic brain injury has resulted in something that means that they don't have the same skills as somebody who's neurotypical. They might have that will to still do it, but their skills aren't helping them to reach where they need to be, right? So just as this T-Rex here is struggling to hang his curtains, a lot of traumatic brain injury survivors might be there trying to work on the things that are going on, but they might just need a little bit of support in building those skills and working on the things that they need in order to be able to accomplish their goals. We as an organization help a lot of different folks try to achieve their goals, and we support brain injury survivors through a lot of different means. Our primary thing that people reach out to us for is called resource navigation. People call on out to us in order to get a better understanding of some of the providers in their area, what's going on with some of their symptoms, and getting support with filling out their paperwork and problem solving some of the barriers that they experience. This is a service that's completely free to people of all ages. All they need to do is go to our website and fill out our referral form, or give us a call on our resource navigation line. It's here down at the bottom of the page, but also you can find all of this information on our website. We also have a self-management program for folks who are looking to work a little bit more intensively on some of their skills. People work one-on-one with some of our self-management professionals on 3 different skills over a period of 6 months to try and get back to their abilities before the traumatic brain injury occurred. This could be personal skills, home skills, vocational skills, really whatever the person is looking on building. And for people who are looking for something a little bit less structured, we would probably recommend them to check out our peer mentorship program. We try to connect 2 folks of similar backgrounds who are survivors of brain injury, so that way they can share lived experiences, wisdom, as well as support each other in their journeys. So we have a lot of folks who are always interested in this, and we also are always looking for more brain injury survivors who are interested in being peers to others. For youth, we have an education consultation program where our youth education specialist works with youth, families, schools, and hospitals to make sure that children and youth have the plan that they need in order to be able to succeed in educational environments. And we have a variety of classes and workshops for brain injury survivors that are completely free, that folks are able to go ahead and attend. This includes music therapy, yoga, financial health, brain injury basics, and a bunch of different stuff. And once again, all of these different things are located on our website, but you can always reach out to me if you have any questions. We also have a recreation program where our recreational manager, Michael Zavala, arranges a bunch of different trips for brain injury survivors to be able to get out in the world, gain some confidence in some of the skills that they're trying to work on, and accomplish some things that they might not be able to on their own. So we really encourage folks to reach out to him for some more information on those programs. So yes, I don't know if we have time for questions, but all of this information that I talked about here today is available on our website. And folks are welcome to go ahead and send me emails if they would like to learn more, or if they would love to get some more of the different information that we're able to provide in our trainings. I'm going to go ahead and put that into chat. Folks over at Dr. Mac, do we have some time for questions, or do we need to keep moving forward? We're good? Absolutely. Jamie, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I'm just curious what training you provide uh, your clients to help avoid conflict with law enforcement. Law enforcement often looks at behavior, sometimes odd behavior, maybe coming from a person with a brain injury, and might mistake that for negative behavior. So I'm just kind of curious how you guys address that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have three things actually that we do. The first thing that we do is with folks who are engaged in our program, we really do encourage practicing emotional regulation skills and a lot of different things related to, making sure that we're taking care of ourselves, making sure that we are able to respond to the situations that we find ourselves in our lives engaging with. And making sure that we have the support that we need in order to deal with high stress situations, like, say, a traffic stop, or talking with officers if they're, in the neighborhood, and things like that. We also have an entire program that is dedicated to folks who have suffered brain injuries in the legal system, and that is called our reentry program. That is available for folks in Denver County jail systems who need a little bit of support re-entering after their stay in jail is over. And the third thing that we do is actually we support officers and other folks who are involved in the justice system learn a little bit more about brain injury and how they can support folks who are brain injury survivors. I have a counterpart. Her name is Denise. She does basically a very similar thing to what I do. However, she engages primarily with organizations who work in that justice system. And she tailors all of our different trainings specifically to situations that folks who work in the justice system might run into, and how we're able to navigate those difficult situations as well. So, yeah, absolutely. Diana.
I was gonna ask you, are some of these programs available in other languages?
Yeah, so
Oh,
absolutely. So our resource navigators, we do have resource navigators specifically trained in working with folks who speak primarily Spanish.
mhm.
And then for folks who speak languages other than English or Spanish, we do make use of some of the different translation services that other organizations here in Denver use.
Cool. And so when they go to your website, does it say, they speak Spanish, or would they just contact um those same people, and then they just say I speak another language, and they would connect them, or how would they know that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a spot on a referral form for you to note things like, I speak a different language. I'm never free on Tuesdays. I
Hmm,
need some support with specifically this, and that, etc. So there's a spot for you to be able to put that information in when somebody is either filling the referral out for themselves or someone is filling it out for another person.
perfect. And does that also apply for other accommodations, such as needing, if like they need wheelchair accessible or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So same thing. You just go ahead and you note that on our forms. In terms of for folks who need some mobility supports, pretty much all of our services are actually able to be done remote. So that's something that is an option. And then for folks who need to meet in specific spaces, be that a home or somewhere in the community, the folks on our team will actually go out and meet people in the community. So if folks want to do either the peer mentorship program, the re-entry program, or the skill management program, the person who is assigned to them will actually go and meet them in a space that works best for them and works best for them being able to work on the skills that they want to work on.
Thank you, Joey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does anybody else have any questions for Joey?
Yeah, Maria.
Are some of these resources available also for caregivers of people that experience these injuries?
Yep. Yep. So, all of our services can be reached out to either by the brain injury survivor or somebody who is supporting a brain injury survivor. So, family members, friends, case managers, support networks, the list goes on and on and on. They're welcome to go ahead and either give us a call, fill out those referral forms, etc. And they just let us know that, I myself am not a brain injury survivor, but I am supporting somebody who is a brain injury survivor, and I want to know blank. Right. In addition, we also have some support groups listed on our website. Some of those support groups are specifically for brain injury survivors, but there are also support groups on there for parents and caregivers of brain injury survivors.
Thank you. Thank you, Joy.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions?
Well, excellent. Thank
Alrighty.
you, Joey.
Yeah, of course. I know this was a lot of information to take really fast. We only had a little bit of time to be able to talk about it. But once again, we have a bunch of different resources on our website if you want to go ahead and check that out under either our For Professional tab, For Adults tabs, just a bunch of different things. And then separate from all of that, you are always welcome to go ahead and give us a call on our Resource Navigator line, which is listed on our website, as well as you are absolutely welcome to reach out to me for the longer trainings or any other questions that you have related to this. We also offer trainings for screening tools if people are interested in learning a little bit more about how we can help support people figuring out the extent of their brain injury and things like that. So please, please, please reach out. We're here to help if you need it.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And we will go ahead and you said you were going to put your information in the chat, correct, Joey?
Yep. So I went ahead and I threw my email in the chat. I will throw it in there again. And then at the end, I'm going to send an email over to Diana with all of our regular, survey questions and things like that. And we'll make sure that everybody has access to that information after the meeting as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I will go ahead and make sure to distribute that. Our final presenter is going to be Corin Ikoma Katroop from Lairden School. Corin?
Hello, everybody. I'm Corin, and I am the transition coordinator here at the Lairden School. Right now I'm currently in a classroom teaching, so I'm working with our 18 to 21-year-old population, and I'm going to be presenting about the IDD community, more with the scope of like an academic lens. Sorry. Sorry, I'm trying to pull everything up.
It's good to see you.
Nice seeing you too.
Yeah.
Also we worked with Dr. Mapp as I'm trying to pull this up. And they came to the Lairden School and presented about public transportation, and they actually took a classroom of students on the light rail, and the students loved it. Share my screen. Okay. All right. Can everyone see that?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. All right, so IDD. So when we talk about IDD, we're talking about the intellectual and or developmental disabilities. It's kind of a umbrella term, I would say. So going in kind of into both of them. So an intellectual disability is kind of separated into mild, moderate, severe, and profound limitations in both intellectual functioning and adaptive behavior. And this usually originates before the age of 22. And from the school perspective, when we do something called an evaluation, we look at an IQ requirement and an adaptive behavior assessment. So some examples of like an IQ assessment that a school may use is like the Kaufman or the Wechsler, or if they're nonverbal, they might use some like a picture type of assessment, or they might use bits and pieces. And this is usually completed by a school psychologist. And then we also see their adaptive behavior through different assessments. And adaptive behaviors are those skills needed to effectively care for yourself and respond to others, and meet those different environmental demands of like school, home, in the community. And some different assessments that you might see for like a adaptive is one that's called the ABIS, and it's called Adaptive Behavior Assessment Systems, and that will give you an assessment of someone's adaptive behaviors. And usually we look at if they meet that qualification, if they are 2 standard deviations below the mean. So you're looking around a score of like 70. And then for a developmental disability is a neurological disability manifested before the age of 22. And that results in a lifelong impairment. So some of these limitations can include self-care, receptive and expressive language, learning, mobility, self-determination, independent living, and economic self-sufficiency. So some examples of developmental disabilities can include intellectual disability, autism, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy. So that's kind of a little breakdown of intellectual and developmental disabilities. So for Leriden, I'm going to speak about Leriden because we serve people within the IDD community. So Joseph and Elizabeth Calabrese invested their life savings in the creation of the Leriden School. So that's where I'm a teacher at, for their 2 sons, Larry and Don. And Leriden was the first charitable organization in the Rocky Mountain region. And the reason why that they put their life savings into the school is because the schools did not accept their children at that time. So they made a school for their sons. And that's kind of brings us to what Leriden is now. So Leriden empowers children and adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So we have lots of different programs within Leriden. So within the department I work in would be the Leriden School, and the Leriden School is a facility school, and we are a school for students between the ages of 5 and 21. A facility school is basically, so the school districts, they can't meet the students' needs. And so the students get referred to Leriden, and then we create or follow their IEP, and we work on behavior plans, and we try to get them back to their school district. So that's always the ultimate goal, so that they could be within their community. We also have the Calabrese Youth Center, or the CYC, which is residential placement for not students, but clients between the ages of 11 and 18. We have our Leriden Adult Program. We have our employment program, which works with individuals on individual work teams. So they work with DVR, or they have a group that's work teams where they might need a little bit more support, but then they're working out their way into the DVR program. And then we also Leriden supports with host home providers as well. So that's how Leriden empowers children and adults. So I'm going to go into the Layardon School. So the Layardon School, as I said, serves, we serve about 24 different school districts, and then these students are referred to us through the school districts. And our students all have IEPs, and we work largely with a multidisciplinary team. And this is very important for people with IDD, is, having that team approach. So within our school, we have occupational therapists, speech language pathologists, we have BCBAs, social workers, reading specialists, special education teachers, and paraprofessionals. Also, we work with a lot of outside teams so that the team is comprehensive. So it's not just at school and home, it's more of like wraparound services. Sorry, I'm trying to read my notes. So working with students with IDD, so Layardon really utilizes ABA. So ABA is applied behavior analysis, and that is the scientific approach to understanding behavior. So our behavior analysis, our behaviorists, they look at the function of the students' behaviors and they write up their behavior plans. And then for also working with students with IDD, we look a lot into new skills and how they are being presented and taught to our students. So we use lots of different types of prompting, whether it be a physical prompt, which is more so like that hand over hand modeling, showing how it's done, like a demonstration, lots of visuals. A gesture might be like a point, or a verbal is just telling, reminding the student, oh, we have where does I'm sorry, I'm trying to think of it. What do we do next? That might be a verbal prompt. Also working with students, we try to use really clear and concise directions so that there's it's more errorless. We offer lots of choices, and within Layardon, we really try to focus a lot on functional communication and independence. So some different types of programming. So a lot of our students, especially our 18 to 21-year-olds, are working on functional academics. So functional academics, you're looking at like math and reading that is going to really, and science, all the different types of academics, that's going to benefit them when they age out of the school system or they exit the school system. So for example, for math, you would be looking at time or money. For science, you might be looking at cooking. And for reading, it might be more so reading community signs, reading labels, or reading what's going to improve their life and make them more independent. Some other things that we look at for programming is vocation and volunteer skills. So we really look at those soft and hard skills. So soft skills would be like being accountable, showing up to their job, making emphasizing that teamwork, being on time. And those hard skills, as they develop those soft skills, would be more of those technical skills of what they're interested in. Because within the IEP, we really focus on, within their transition plan in the IEP, we really focus on what are their post-school goals? What do they want to do when they are done with school? And with that, we look at community access skills like public transportation. And that's how Dr. Mack has helped out with our students. They came and they talked about public transportation, teaching them how to use public transportation, and then also taking them. That's a big thing, is taking them out into the community and really practicing those skills, not just, paper and pencil, but being able to apply those skills that they learn in the classroom. Independent living skills. So we talk about a lot, our occupational therapists work with our students with their ADLs and IADLs. So ADLs are activities of daily living, and that includes, like bathing, toileting, dressing themselves, eating meals, personal hygiene. And IADLs are more of those complex skills that are those tasks needed to live life independently. So those examples of those are like doing laundry, paying bills, shopping for groceries. And then another thing that we look a lot into here is during our 18 to 21 program and younger is career exploration and that work-based learning. So what are they interested in? Can we shadow shadow what profession that they're interested in? Can they get an apprenticeship? Can they do on-the-job training? So those are some types of programming that we would do with our students so that we could prepare them for when they leave school. And then as I was talking about transition IEP, so transition IEP, we start at 14 and it goes until they exit school. Depending on their plan, they could exit school at the age of 21. And we're really focusing on those post-school goals, career and employment, education and training, and independent living skills. And we really want to involve parents because, you know, a lot of our students, their parents are their guardians. Not all of them, but a majority of them, a majority of our students. And we really like to work with outside agencies. So if they are slated to ride Access-a-Ride, we want to work with Access-a-Ride. If they are we want to work with their community center boards and if they have outside therapy, we want to work on that. We really like to emphasize that team approach so that we could all be on the same goals, have the same goals for the students and be able to work on them and not just doing it what everyone wants. So we all try to have really good communication so that we could meet the students' post-school goals. And like I said before, that work-based learning is part of the transition IP. So we really try to get our students out to volunteer, whether volunteer, if we could get on-site jobs, then that's something that we look for. So some types of work-based learning that we've done that's really helped our students with their soft skills is like working at the food bank. We had some of our students work at the animal shelter. We had some of our students work at volunteer at a hotel before. So just really trying to get those career employment goals. Sorry, I'm speaking kind of fast. And that is all I have. Sorry. Like I said, I was talking more on a scope of an academic lens. So does anyone have any questions? I kind of talked a little fast for that one.
Corin, I did just want to comment. I knew about the ADLs, but I never knew about the IADLs, and I think that that is probably really critical, I think, for IDD students or people in general. Like, you know, there's certain things and skill sets that they may be able to still do and they look normal, but then there's pieces where there's those gaps, right? And I think that that's the piece I think we have to look at when we're working with this population is those gaps and how we meet them where they are and work from there rather than where we want them to be. So I really appreciate you like really alliterating that piece.
Yeah, I mean the ADLs and IDLs is, you know, what's going to make them the most independent, what's going to make them an active person in the community. So just really being able to, we really try to focus on independence.
Any other questions for Corin?
No
How is
question.
the process of independence with the caregivers and people that it's in charge of taking care of people with IDDs?
So for caregivers, so part of my job as transition coordinator is to try to work with a lot of the parents. I try to do monthly like trainings parent sessions. So we tried to give the parents, we had like a communication session. So a lot of our speech pathologists set up a training about how to work with their student or their child with their AAC device. And if they don't have an AAC device, then what type of communication needs do they have at home? You know, we could only help so much in the home, because like we could provide materials for parents and caregivers, but like things like behaviors, they might need in-home therapy for their stuff like that. But the general like functional communication, that's definitely something that if you need pictures or if you need strategies, that's definitely something that we try to teach parents, and how to what's it called, so the student can generalize that skill across both settings.
Thank you. Thank you, Corinne.
You spoke at the beginning about the assessment process. How does that, if somebody had a child that they wanted to have assessed or to enter Laridon, what does that process look like? Or how would somebody get started in the process of that?
So that would be two different processes. So the first process, if you I would say if they're like struggling in school, then that would be a call for an evaluation to determine if they have a disability. And then to get into Laridon, so we are referred through the district refers the students to us. So if the student is has high behavior needs and is the school is just not meeting their behavior, and they're having repeated IEP meetings and the placement is not appropriate for the student, then an outside school would be deemed by the IEP team an outside placement. And that's what Laridon is. Laridon is a outside school or out of district, sorry, a separate school. That's what it's called, a separate school in an IEP meeting. So that's what the IEP team would decide if that would be the appropriate placement for the stool. And that's under the least restrictive environment in the IEP meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions before we move on?
I didn't have a question. I just wanted to say, Corinne, how important it is, for what you do, and how thankful and how important as a community it is to support organizations like yours, because how important children and how as adults they important for them to transition and have those opportunities to be able to be independent, and how in a perfect world, they would have an opportunity to have a place in around us all and be supportive that.
Yeah, I
So thank you.
appreciate you guys coming out and doing your trainings, because like a lot of these students, they ride the school bus or private transportation all through their school years, and then once they turn 21 or exit school, then it's like, what's next? How do they get around from point A to point B? And it's usually like Accessoride or the light rail, or so.
Yeah, Trisha.
Hi, Corinne, thank you. I wondered if you could talk a little bit about the Laridon School, and if you guys work with the community-centered boards across the state.
Yeah. So we definitely try to work with all the so all the school students come from different school districts. So we definitely try to work with all the different community center boards on a more of an individual basis. So if a student has an IEP meeting coming up, we always try to invite them, or we invite them to their IEP meetings, just so that we're all on the same page about their post-school goals. So if their post-school goal is to go to an adult day program, is the community center board aware of that? Or the CMA is aware of that. And then we reach out to parents to see if they're on a waiver and if they need help getting on a waiver. And we talk, it's a lot of communication with parents, and then the parents are the ones who give us like their case CMA's contact information, and then we try to come together and have a meeting about next steps. Are we all on the same page on what is needed to get to those next steps? So, and we definitely meet more as the students starting to age out, just so that, you know, if the student, like I said, a lot of our students do go to adult day programs. So just making sure that is transportation set up, do they need a transition into the program? And so we really try to work with those CMAs for that. Did I answer your question?
Laredin, Andrea, to answer your question, there's a typo on the top version. It's Laredin without the N. Laradon. Awesome.
Thanks,
Well,
Corinne.
awesome. Cool. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today, and to both of our speakers. It's been really helpful. And if anyone has any questions down the road, feel free to reach out to us. We could pass them along, or I know that there's some emails in the chat, so you can reach out directly as well. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
I'm now going to pass it off to Colleen.
You're muted, Colleen.
My dog was being annoying. My apologies. Start all over again. Sorry, you all. Okay, so we want to take this space to open up the floor for any of you. If you have any updates or things you want to promote, questions to ask, require assistance, please feel free to unmute, utilize the chat feature, or raise your hand to contribute.
That means events, because we would love to be going to a bunch of events right now. So if you got events or you know some events, bring it on, because we need them.
Andrea?
I'm so excited that Transportation Solutions Arapahoe County is planning on a Zoom travel training for facilities where the seniors can leave. They can go places if they want. And we've got 12 to 15 facilities that have agreed to take part. And that's going to be our meeting next month on August 15th. I want to maybe double check. Yes, August 15th. It's going to be, instead of our August meeting, we're going to sponsor a Dr. Mack travel training. And I was really excited to get a senior facility that actually had a bus stop right out the front door.
Oh, that's nice.
And I thought it would be really nice for them to help their folks learn to take the bus.
Thank you, Andrea. Do you have a flyer or any kind of information that you would like for us to share?
I do have a flyer, but the problem is it's meant to be personalized to each facility. So they need to add the name of their facility and the, well, date and time. But yeah, they need to add information to it. So it's a general flyer without all the pertinent information.
Well, I'm assuming that you have been in communication with Steph and you
Oh,
guys
you
have
betcha.
worked on those details. Okay. Thank you.
Excuse me, Colleen. Hi, guys.
Tracy.
It's good to see you guys. When you get that information from Andrea, could you please share that with me, considering a lot of our organizations here are the 62 and over community? So I think that would definitely be beneficial. Thank you so much.
Let me see if I can drop it in the chat, but just understand that it does need to be completed because each building is going to be sponsoring it in their building someplace.
Well, Andrea, I can definitely share it with all of the VOA different buildings of the 62 and over. So if you get that to Stephanie or Colleen, they can definitely get that to me and I can share it from there.
Okay, and then my Zoom is limited to under 100 screens.
Okay, sounds
Well,
good.
that's good to know. That's helpful to know.
Look
Thank
at these
you.
connections. I'm loving
I was
it.
gonna
I
say it'd be
know
great
it.
if we have too many people, we can schedule a secondary training if needed, for sure.
Absolutely, because Volunteers of America, they have a lot of locations. I'm
Oh,
sure we could
absolutely.
figure something out.
And we were pretty much, the way we went about it was those facilities, senior facilities in Arapahoe County. But I know already that I've got one facility that's not in Arapahoe County wanting to take part.
That's wonderful. Anyone else? I also wanted to remind everyone to please put your name and email in the chat if you haven't had a chance to do that. Come on, I know there's something going on out there in the community. No? Okay. Well, if there aren't any more updates, I have just a few, and I'll put the info in the chat when after I get done here, because it's hard for me to multitask here. Okay, we're on the last final call before I move on. Okay. So the three updates I have is that RTD is hosting a 60 years of civil rights event on July 20th, noon until 3 p.m. at the Studio Loft. You have to RSVP, so I'll put the registration link in the chat. And then Dr. Mack will be offering us a brand new program. I'm so excited that our wonderful Malia's wonderful husband helped us get started. And it is a series of tech trainings. The first one is going to be on mobile security and tech, and it's on Tuesday, July 30th, 2 to 4 p.m. at the Ford Warren Library, 2825 North High Street. And I'll put the registration link to that in the chat as well. And then finally, as Malia said, I just want to invite you all to please come out. It's a family event. It's going to be so much fun. We're here to support the caregivers, and there'll be resources to share. But Dr. Mack's Transit to Wellness Expo 2024 will be held on Friday, August 30th. Team, jump in if I get any of this wrong. From 3 to 6 p.m., the City Park Pavilion. It is a free event, but if we have any orgs that would like to host a table or would like to sponsor the event, we would appreciate it. And all that information can be found on the registration website. And I will put that in the chat as well. Are there any questions on any of that information? Because I know I ran through it pretty quickly.
I would like to make an additional announcement about the LIVE program with RTD,
Thank you, Latoya.
because we are participating and supporting them. So we do have a few RTD tickets left. If anybody's interested in receiving some of those help, we will help you with that as long as you're, we're gonna, give you that information about the LIVE program and really encourage you to sign up. The LIVE program is a discount program for older adults. It's really important, and I'm gonna push that for you guys in that population because they not only get the adult discount for being an older adult, but they also can apply for the LIVE program and have 2 discounts. So that's something that's different than before. They get 2 discounts. So if you're interested in that, please reach out for more information from Diana Castro. She's the point of contact with Dr. Mack for that. But I really think that that's a huge and great program right now going on. And you guys don't fall off the loop with that. So get a hold of her, and if you want a RTD ticket to go along with your application for that, let's make that happen, right?
Thank you, Latoya. I almost forgot that update. Appreciate it. I'm trying to see if there's anything in the chat before we move on. Hey, Dora. I miss you. I worked with Nora at Gateway. I see you. Any other? I miss your face, Miss Nora. And I don't see any more updates. Okay. Well,
I would just like to
I guess-
mention real quick that if you would like to keep up with these news and updates, please follow us on social media. I will be entering the links to our socials on the chat too as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Maria. All right, excellent. We appreciate your trust in this space for those updates. That about brings us to the end of our meeting today. But before we wrap up, we'd like to show some appreciation to some of our 2024 members. Thank you all for your continued support. You can see on the slide here, and I'll just call them out. Show and Tell, Grover Field, Colorado Cross Coalition, Cross Disability Coalition, Meg Wright, The Arc. My eyes are old. Castle Rock, help me someone. Castle Rock, what does that say? Castle Rock.
Senior Activity Center.
Senior Activity Center. Black Hawk. Love, that's Love Inc., right? Is that Love Inc.'s logo?
Yep.
Developmental Pathways, Transportation Solutions, Mobility for All. Thank you all for your support. We appreciate it. That's just a few of our members, so thank you. And that about brings us to the end here. Thank you for attending today's meeting. We look forward to seeing you at next month's member meeting scheduled for August 6th from 1:30 to 3 p.m. on Zoom. The 2024 Dr. Mac meetings are available on our website, and we hope you enjoy your summer. Thanks, everyone.